Now, Battlefield 6 Season 2 still has yet to be announced, but based on how Season 1 unfolded, combined with rumors from places like Insider Gaming, I wanted to take today to discuss what most likely is going to happen and what I hope changes. Because while Battlefield 6 came out of the gate on fire, the game appears to be in a painful state of neglect. Whether you're one of the players begging for bigger maps, fixes to netcode, or share my larger concerns around the failure of RedSec and the tanking player base. And while Battlefield 6 is still far from being dead, the honeymoon period has really worn off. And DICE is once again showing they might not be the best custodians of this legendary franchise as they release another live service with some severe issues right before the holiday break, and then go radio silent for months. And between the broken netcode, unexplained AI cosmetics, and a player base that used to be discussed in the millions now looking more like tens of thousands, I'm not sure the game itself is the problem, but more the strategy and culture behind it. The game had several years in production, hundreds of millions of dollars in cost, in 4 world-class studios with around 1,000 employees, all while targeting 100 million players while chasing trends perpetuated by Call of Duty instead of forging its own path. And to release such a massive project with such massive financial implications and immediately watch it fall below EA's 6-year-old Apex Legends, all the while live service earnings make up 3/4 of the company's revenue, this isn't some little game that can thrive on tens of thousands of players. It's the lifeblood of one of gaming's largest corporations that just got brought under new ownership. So if Battlefield is going to cost hundreds of millions of dollars and still underperform older titles made by a single studio, the math probably isn't going to work out. But this is just my long-winded way of saying Season 2 needs to deliver. And like I said in my recent review, while Season 1 missed the mark, it did at least lay down a structure that could work moving forward, as long as the content is actually good, timely, and supported by meaningful fixes. But before we dive in, if you enjoy in-depth reviews, breakdowns, and discussions on all things Battlefield, make sure to drop a like, hit subscribe, and let's get into the rumors around Season 2. So as of right now, Season 2 still hasn't been officially announced, but based on how Season 1 was structured and how long it's been running, most reporting points to a late January start, likely somewhere in the final week of the month. Season 1 launched at the end of October, ran through multiple phased updates, and everything about the cadence suggests DICE is intended a roughly 12-week season. There's also been chatter about a Season 2 trailer briefly appearing or being hidden in official Battlefield playlists before being removed, which lines up pretty well with how DICE has handled teases in the past. Whether that was intentional or not, it does suggest that Season 2 is closer than the silence would have you believe, although it makes me worry that Season 2 was already developed and ready a while ago, meaning not much recent feedback will actually be implemented. Now, as far as content goes, this is where things are going to get a little more speculative, but also a little more interesting. Leaks and data mining point towards multiple new weapons already being prepped for Season 2, including a mix of assault rifles, SMGs, LMGs, and sidearms. Weapons like the Beretta 2, Scorpion Evo, MG5, and even compact machine pistols have all been tied to Season 2 files and discovered by data miners, which would at least help add to the sandbox that feels a little bit thin in certain categories. There are also strong indications that new gadgets are coming as well, including additional launchers and utility tools for infantry. And on the vehicle side, one of the more exciting and more strongly supported rumors is the return of the Little Bird, which would be a massive shakeup for air combat and a huge callback to peak Battlefield 3 and 4. Now, maps are still the biggest question mark. Nothing has been officially shown, but multiple reports suggest Season 2 will introduce at least one new map, possibly more, and that these maps will be designed with more focused identities and better gameplay balance than what we got in Season 1. That's something the game desperately needs after how poorly Blackwell Fields and Eastwood were received by the fanbase. And this is where another major rumor comes into play, especially for longtime Battlefield fans. Data mining and insider reporting suggest Battlefield 6 could see additional remastered legacy maps return in future seasons. Files and internal references have reportedly pointed to classic maps such as Propaganda from Battlefield 4, Tala Market from Battlefield 3, and even Downtown from Battlefield Hardline potentially being rebuilt for Battlefield 6 in the future. This also lines up with previous developer comments suggesting that classic Battlefield maps could return based on community feedback, which would make a lot of sense given how much criticism the current maps have taken. Now, none of this is officially confirmed yet, but if DICE really does lean into remastering fan-favorite maps, it could go a long way towards fixing one of Battlefield 6's biggest problems, which is the lack of great map design. But moving on, it looks like DICE is sticking with the phased rollout approach, meaning Season 2 content will likely be spread across multiple updates rather than dropping all at once. We're also likely to see continued support for Portal and RedSec, with developers hinting at new ways to engage with those modes, and possibly even solo or alternative RedSec experiences to try to stop the bleeding there. Although I still believe that mode needs a full rework, like I talked about in my recent RedSec video. But while all of that sounds fine on paper, content alone isn't what's going to make or break Season 2, which brings me on to what I actually want to see change. First and foremost, Season 2 needs to finally address long-term core issues like player visibility and netcode. These problems have been hanging over the game since release, and they've only become more and more noticeable as the player base shrinks and metas get more ingrained. Too many deaths still feel latent around corners, too many gunfights still feel inconsistent, and no amount of new maps or weapons will matter if players don't trust the core mechanics. Second, the weapon sandbox needs a real rebalance, not just light tuning. Snipers are still far too easy to use with the amount of reward they offer, especially with mechanics like the sweet spot returning and a game that already struggles with consistency. SMGs continue to dominate outside of their intended ranges with absurd TTK values, while the assault rifles somehow feel like the least reliable option despite being designed as the backbone of the sandbox. Season 2 needs to rein this in. Snipers need to lose their anti-glare coating and one-body hit potential. SMGs should excel up close and drastically fall off beyond that. And assault rifles need better range, accuracy, and a clearer role within the sandbox. But finally, the live service itself needs a serious reality check. The structure of Battlefield 6's live service actually has potential. Breaking seasons into smaller themed updates was a good idea, but the problem is execution. Broken challenges, underwhelming rewards, AI-generated cosmetics, and a paid store that feels completely disconnected from Battlefield's identity have drained excitement instead of building it. If DICE wants players to stay invested, they need to consistently offer cosmetics that actually feel like Battlefield. They need to offer a long-term progression with real rewards, not stickers and keychains. And they need to stop chasing trends from other shooters instead of leaning into the franchise's own strengths. Season 2 isn't just another content drop. DICE is already in a position where it needs to rebuild trust. This is the moment where the franchise, once again, has to prove it can support a massive live service experience without constantly undermining itself through poor gameplay quality and slow responses. If Season 2 delivers real fixes, meaningful balance changes, and a live service that respects both casual and hardcore players, Battlefield 6 still has huge potential. If it doesn't, then we're probably looking at another slow bleed of a Battlefield with massive potential. Not because the game itself can't succeed, but because it once again wasn't given what it needed to thrive. As Battlefield Studios and EA drop a massive project right before the holiday break and then act surprised when it flounders with lacking content, communication, and endless bugs. But guys, drop those comments below and let me know what you want to see out of Season 2. And for everything else Battlefield, stay tuned and subscribe. And as always, thank you guys for watching.